What's up, everybody? Anton here from E-commerce Lifestyle, and today we're doing another interview episode. Today is it's really a special one. We are with Isaac Smith. If you're part of Dropship Lifestyle, you might have met him at a previous retreat. You've definitely seen his name in the Facebook group and the forum, probably back in the day. That's because I actually, before we got on this call, I checked your email address. So I was like, when did Isaac, become a part of this whole thing? And the exact date was actually January 1st, 2014. And I was looking at like the price range that you got in for, and that was within the first 200 people of the program. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, really cool. You've been around for a long time now. I'm sure you've learned so much and have a bunch to share.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for hopping on the call.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. It's funny to think. I've always kind of wondered, like, how early was I in this? How many people were in there before me? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the way I gauged it was by price points. We had like an introductory price. Then after 100 people, we went up a bit. Then after almost 100 people, we went up again. And you were like right in that third tier. And based on the date, it must have been super, super early because, I only started this thing probably mid 2013. So 6 months later. Yeah. So I guess, people probably have seen your name, or maybe they haven't, and they'll start to see it now and it'll stick out more when they're in the Facebook group. But you want to introduce yourself, tell everybody, I guess, how you even got started and
Sure.
what your journeys look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, it's been a long journey. I used to be an architect back in, it was a while ago now. But yeah, I was looking for something else. And I would listen to podcasts on my way to work every morning. And eventually I stumbled on one thing that stumbled on another thing. You know how that chain goes. And I think it was a Terry Lynn Build My Online Store podcast. I don't think he does that anymore.
No, he doesn't. Yep.
Yeah, he was interviewing Johnny, and I heard that and I went, well, that makes sense. So anyway, yeah, I started going the rabbit hole on like, what is this dropship lifestyle thing? And I was so determined. By the end of that, I guess it was 2013, I was like, yes, let's do this. And so I made myself, January 1st, this is my big new thing. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to do it. So yeah, that's that's what I did.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, that's obviously like a lot of time. So I know through the process, and meeting in person, like you've been through different stores, right? Mm-hmm. There's been obviously a ton of learning and a ton of trial and error, because it's funny to even think like back then what Dropship Lifestyle looked like, as far as the content structure and how in depth we went. It was like a totally different thing. So, just night and day. Yeah. So I'm curious though, like, from your first store up until now, especially like as we get, closer to the current date, right? For everybody that is building, that is growing. If any lessons you could share, like big revelations that could benefit people. So many, right? I know we could probably talk for like 10 hours about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's exactly that. It was a journey, and it's still going. I'm somewhere in the middle. It's like I have big dreams, and they're off in the distance. But where I came from, I've come a long ways, and I have a long ways to go. So I mean, that's one thing is just sort of persistence and patience with yourself and being forgiving. So like, I'm in the Facebook group a lot, and I see a lot of people commenting, and a lot of their attitudes are, I can see myself in what people are saying. And they're like, how do I make sure that I do this first store right? Or how do I make sure that I don't fail on this thing? And that was my attitude too. The first store I did was RC cars and trucks and drones and helicopters and things. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And at the first retreat, I went to the first retreat, which, by the way, guys, if you're listening, go to the retreat. I'm not kidding you. That was I'm not exaggerating, life-changing moment for me. Being around all these people who are doing this thing, what I'm doing, we all have the same attitude. I fell into a group of guys that we really connected, started a mastermind, that was 5 years ago, and we're
Right. Yeah.
still talking.
Yeah.
It's still strong.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So
Yeah.
like, and everybody's doing so much better than they were. So
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, do that. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I was pushing and pushing and pushing on my first store. Eventually, it was the mastermind guys who told me like, hey, this isn't working out, man. You got to stop. I was like, no, I can make this work. I can do it. I haven't tried this yet and that yet. And
And they were referring to your product type, right? To your niche. That's what they were saying.
yeah,
It wasn't
it was
working
the
out. Yeah.
RC store. It was
Yep.
just like, it wasn't the right niche.
Hmm.
And like, I couldn't see that. So eventually they were like, you got it. You just got to stop. And finally I listened. So, but that was a painful moment. And it was painful for a while. It's like, oh, I failed, like crap. But, like, hey, you look around and you see people who have had success and or who seem to have it all together. You don't know the whole story actually, and I think actually for most of these people that success wasn't their first try. It wasn't even their third try usually. Like Joe, who was the last
Hmm.
guy on the podcast that like he's done huge things, but this is what he said, his fourth store.
I
And
think so. Yeah. Third or fourth. Yep.
yeah. So, I
Yep.
mean, that's huge, is just the willingness to get up and try again.
Yep. And that's so true. Like, and even with the success stories you see, right? Whoever it is, like you don't see behind the scenes. So
Right.
even if their business is successful in the sense that it's super profitable and they were able to quit their job and they're making more money than they ever did, there's fires to put out every single
Oh,
week. There's
yeah.
something happening. So it's never just like you make it and then you put your hands up and you're done. It's no matter what stage you're at, 1 month in, 1 year in, 10 years in,
Mhm.
there's always something new happening that you deal with. That's business.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's a great point.
Yeah. And it goes, even if you do have a quote unquote successful store, like everybody has their own version of success. What means that success to me is not the same as you. And, um, you know, like you said, there's always challenges. And so like, for my most recent store, it was profitable. It was doing great. I was very happy with it, but there's huge ups and downs all the time. And you've got to just be able to just keep going forward no matter what, and like deal with it, deal with whatever you're facing.
Mm-hmm. And I know before we started recording, before we clicked that button, you said, because you sold your store, so congratulations on
Oh
that.
yeah,
That's
thanks.
awesome. Yeah. But you said, before that happened, you were experiencing kind of a dip in sales. So you were going through a struggle of somebody that owns a successful store, and you had to not just throw your hands up and say, okay, what's the next one? You kind of had to jump in there, change things, and get it back on track. So, maybe people are experiencing that, or maybe they're still trying to get some momentum, right? So the things that you did to kind of take something that was declining and get it back on the rise,
Yeah.
any like major things that you would think would apply to the majority of people listening or building these businesses?
Yeah. So, this is tough. Like I've learned this as I've been trying to sort of emphasize, it's more of a head game than you think it is. And it's more of a head game than I think. I think that's the primary thing, even more than the technical side or the whatever. But yeah, so, I had this store, I started it, I don't even know. It was 4.5 years ago from now, whenever that works out
Yeah.
to. And I sold it in March. And so it was 2017, it had been growing for over a year. 2017 was a huge year for me. I was like so excited, like, yes, this is what this is on my way to my dreams. And at the end of the year, I hired a really great VA who was going to do the customer service. I spent a lot more than I was hoping for her, but she's amazing. She's well worth her money, especially compared to the other losers
Yeah.
that I was working with before. So yeah, I mean, like I was like going and going, and then January comes, 2018, and it just like slump. Like crap. Now I have this VA that I'm spending a lot of money on. Like I can't just have these low months anymore. And so like, okay, well, I've had low months. Keep going. February, really low month. And actually March was a huge month, but then April, you know, just like
Yeah.
continuous slide. And, you know, I'm starting to feel really bad about myself. Like, oh no, you know, like I'm 4 years into this at this point, and, you know, what do I have to show? I have a store that seems to be dying. But yeah, I mean, for one, like I said, it's the persistence. You got to know to get back into it. So one thing is, you sort of alluded to how dropship lifestyle has changed from the beginning. So like, I'm guessing the version that I saw at the beginning was like the very first version, right?
I would
It
assume
wasn't,
maybe like a minor tweak here and there,
yeah,
but yeah, pretty much.
there wasn't all this. I mean, dropship lifestyle now is huge. You
Yeah.
have so much stuff in there. There's a full on course just on Google Ads. You know, like I know that back when I started, there was some, you know, you showed how to do it, but it wasn't anything like it
No,
is
it was like
now.
a high level overview of like, here's the process. And then a lot of it was kind of left up in the air to, you know, you to figure out as you're in there instead of the step-by-step that it is now.
Yeah. So one big thing is, guys, don't be like Isaac and just like fall off, go like, oh, I got it. Okay, I'm good. You know, like, hey, I'm having success. I don't need to pay attention to what's going on. Because that's actually what happened. You know, I look back and I go like, oh, you know, I was so arrogant, you know, like, I think I've got this, you
Yeah.
know, like I'm having these huge sales, you know, I can just go off and do my own thing without paying attention to the
Yeah.
rest.
It's funny you say that because that is the normal way to think. I mean, when I first saw success, that I did the same exact thing. Like I was playing golf every day and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll respond to these emails when we get a chance because everything is perfect. And
Yeah.
then you realize you have a lot more things breaking than you expected. But like, I think everybody goes through that. And that made me think of maybe a few months ago, somebody actually posted in the Facebook group and they said something like, I don't know, like they found out that there was something they had to do. I think when I talk about like auditing your ad accounts every couple of weeks, and they were like, wait a minute, and they were serious. They were like, I thought I could build my store, have it be successful, and then sit on a beach. And that was like the word, sit on a beach.
Yeah.
You can, but it's going to eventually, yeah, you do have to be actively monitoring things. So, I mean, it sounds like a few months went by and you were watching the numbers and kind of thinking like it would have those down and bounce back up. But when you realized they were, I guess, more down than up, what was your like plan of action? You know, where do you go from there? Because obviously you turned it around. So
yeah, well, like I didn't know what to do. So like, I think here's let's like lay out the problem first. So like I thought I've got it. I'm going to go do my own thing. And I went off and did these, you know, great ideas I'd have. I listened to a podcast. Oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to go do that. Well, and then I'd spend a month or two, like like one thing that I'm good at is just like focusing on one thing and like ignoring everything else. I'm not saying I was ignoring customers or anything, but like I would focus on like content. So the very first time I did this actually was, I forget who it was at the first retreat.
Brandon Nolte, Brandon Nolte.
How did you know I was going to bring that up?
Because I love that talk and we implemented a lot of stuff from it too. Yeah.
Yeah, his content marketing, he laid out this whole thing. I was like, oh yes, this is it. So I spent 3 months building out I had blog posts going up twice a week, team doing this. I'm not doing anything, but it wasn't resulting in sales. And it turns out I spent like 3 months that I could have been dedicating to like fundamentals. And I didn't actually know really how to do it. So like I repeated that thing, you know, chasing this great idea over and over. And when I keep a journal. This is another tip, guys. I keep a journal and it sort of shows me like what I've done. And at the end of the year, I review it. And so I'm looking through and I'm going, oh my gosh, I wasted a month there. The next month I wasted there. So it was like spending all this time on things that aren't proven to make a difference to your bottom line on a drop shipping store. And so, yeah, these things are great. It's dropship lifestyle. Yeah, you can have this lifestyle. So go off, you have a VA run your customer service, go off for a week or two or a month, I went to Costa Rica with my family for a couple weeks last year, and it was taken care of. But you can't just neglect it for months at a time. It starts to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing that I want to say, like, that's not really a tip that I think people are hoping to hear, but like, that's my truth.
Yeah. They need to. Yeah.
Yeah. So how I solved that is like going back into the dropship lifestyle course. I watched the whole thing again and was like, whoa, there's so much more in here now I had completely ignored. I reached out to people asking like, hey, what would you, just becoming more active in the community again, focusing on the fundamentals. Like, that's critical.
Mm-hmm.
So what did I actually do that made a really big difference? I'll tell you. I actually now, after watching this and experiencing this all this time, I really think the most important thing is having the right product. That's critical. And then, I mean, that's like 80% of it right there, is having the product that people are searching for, that want to buy. So if you have that product, then you have to communicate that you have it, and you have to communicate that this is a great place to buy it, what your offer is. And then getting in front of people with the, advertising, like, the tiered advertising campaigns that that's in the course, that it shows you how to do that. So what I did was, I had this, what happened, I mean, this is just my experience. I had this supplier who I had a few different brands through, and I had one top seller that was doing really well. I had some other top sellers, but there's one brand that I just sold a ton of.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was talking to the supplier. So the next tip is talk to your suppliers, have a good relationship with them. So I was talking to this guy, and he said, hey, you sell a lot of this brand. Why don't you sell this brand? I was like, what? Really? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do they sell well? He's like, yeah, of course they're huge. I was like, oh, okay, well, okay, sure. So I asked him, this is the other critical thing. I asked him, so what are like their top 5 sellers? And he told me this, and this. So I spent a few days, and I actually had those products on the website already, but they didn't look as good. They weren't optimized in a way that I would normally do my products, So I spent a few days, and I just sort of went over what they were. I adjusted I have a list. So I sold my store, and I wrote like how to do everything for my, for the buyer. And I sort of have like what I thought was like an 80-20 of like what you need to do. And this comes from your course. It comes from all kinds of people. But basically have a keyword rich title, not super long and spammy, but just like, if you know that, I have a desk in front of me. If you know that if you want to sell a desk, and that people are looking for white, that's a popular trending color, or standing desk or whatever, make sure you say white standing desk, like that's what people are searching for. You don't have to do this fancy keyword research, but just, use some of your intelligence and common sense. And if customers are calling and they're talking about certain things, use the words that they say and put them in your titles, put them in your descriptions. Another thing that I do is I want to make sure that I have like a great offer, like a freebie in everything that I want to sell, even if it's not, exclusive to me. If other stores aren't telling people and like advertising that they're getting this free thing. So like, for example, I had this chair that I sold, and it came with another thing. And other people I would put that image in the main image, in the image, put all of those little freebies. And also, if you can, spend $60 and give them something really cool also with it. So you have these other like smaller items in with the image. So like, then when they're looking on Google Shopping, they see all these things like, oh, wow, that one has more.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, like you're taking things again, like you said, they're already there, they're already included. The customer's getting them. You're just letting it be known, and you're making it look like a better offer. And people
Yeah.
are going to click through more to your site, and when they're there, it's going to stand out more. So yeah, that's a really good tip.
Yeah, and you know, my I was selling really expensive things, so like I might make $600 or $1,000 on an item that I sold. So like, if spend $100 and
Yep.
give them something nice with that nobody else is doing,
Do that all day
sure,
long. Yep.
yeah. The other thing um, is sort of, this is a little bit more technical. For my feed manager, I would use the meta titles and meta descriptions instead of the long ones.
Yep.
So when you're in your Shopify product page, you can scroll down and edit the SEO titles and descriptions. So look, if you're selling something that everybody else is, they're all going to have the same looking thing, the same looking titles. Even if they wrote their own titles, it's going to say similar things. So if someone searches for, I have a white standing desk in front of me right now. If somebody searches for white standing desk and the Google Shopping comes up, or even if they put the brand, this is IKEA, so IKEA white standing desk. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else sells IKEA, so maybe that's a bad example, but let's go with it.
Yeah.
There's all of these listings for IKEA white standing desk. Well, I don't do that. I put all caps at the very beginning, free lamp or whatever my freebie is, or free chair dash hyphen IKEA white standing desk.
Right.
And I put a picture of that in the featured item. So like, who wouldn't click on that? So that way I get a leg up. And if you can make your offer really cool, so like, I'll give away a little bit. You know, as everybody knows, we don't like really revealing our niches
Right.
and websites and stuff, but I sold it, you know, and I want to respect the new owner, but I can tell you a little bit, it was a B2B furniture kind of thing. So tables and desks is not unusual for me to sell, very specific to a specific kind of business. So everybody would sell this table, and maybe it would be a table fit for 3 or 2. I would give them 3 chairs for free. And that cost me a lot of money, but I made so much money when people bought that. So, and people would call up and they'll say, "Are you serious? I get 3 free chairs?" Like, no, no way. Really? Right. Yes.
Just to give people an idea, again, like not about the product, but the amount of money, let's say net profit you would have made without giving the chairs, then after giving the chairs, like what do those numbers look like?
Oh, it's hard to remember, but like, yeah, I mean, I might have made $1,500 without the chairs, and then each chair cost me $60. So, you know, I'm at like 1,200 or 1,300 at this point. So it's like,
So yeah, you're gonna make
brainer.
exactly. Yeah, that's why like people get scared sometimes. You know, thinking of these bonus offers and like, how's that going to affect my profit? And I mean, the thing is, you said the word common sense before, the term common sense, and it's so true. Like, do it where you can. And the best places that we found it to work is exactly what you've done, which is those huge ticket products, because that's where somebody's already, they're about to drop a lot of money. They're going to buy something, and they know in that scenario, they would need 3 chairs. They would need 2 chairs to go with it. And they're going to buy that regardless. So just saying, hey, you're going to buy it anyway. You know, these are on us. They're whatever dollar value, and they're going to ship when you buy this from us. Like that's so massive. And the common sense thing, like everybody should think through that while they're auditing their own sites. You know, it's easy to get like technical and be like, well, what's the best practice for every single little part? Like my description and my images and my, you know, apps that I use. And more so just look at your website as if you were actually looking to buy the thing you have there. And then just try to think through the buying process that a real consumer would have. And that's what gets the best results in terms of conversion optimization.
Yeah. And if you know, my website, I had like 2,000 products. It's huge.
Yep.
So it becomes overwhelming if you start go, oh no, I have to come up with an offer. But no, it's just one product at a time. So like if there's one that you think you can sell, a supplier has told you you can sell it, that's a best seller, think about that one and focus on that for a while, see what happens, and, you know, repeat the process on the next one. So,
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. And another thing that I wanted to talk about that I know you've done a lot of that definitely helped with the sale of your store, something you've shared about too in the Facebook group, which is your process for actually keeping records of profitability, because
Yeah.
that's another thing that people seem to slip on. Again, when you're new, it's easy to kind of overlook it and just look at top line and not actually know where your money's coming from, how much you're keeping, and kind of using that information to make decisions like where should you invest more? What should you try to sell more of? What
Yeah.
should you turn ads off for? So you kind of created your own system for this.
Hmm.
So you want to talk a little bit about that, like how that, I guess, how you had the idea to even
Yeah.
do that to begin with and where you took
Yeah.
it?
Well, it comes from pain, you
Yeah.
know, and I didn't want to create it. I didn't want to do my own bookkeeping, but I had no background in business. I think most of us in this
Hmm.
in your community don't. That's why we're here.
Hmm.
And so when my business started taking off, I realized, oh crap, I'm gonna have to pay taxes, and I'm gonna have to figure out what this is. It's not coming out of my paycheck automatically. And then you're looking at your bank account going, this doesn't make any sense. Like it's either way too high or way too low. And it's like, what? I just don't get it. So my first response was, okay, well, I'm going to just hire someone to do this for me. Like I don't understand any of it. I don't know what's required. I don't know. So so I hired a bookkeeper on Upwork, worked with him for a few months. That was a disaster. um, and so then I go, okay, well, fine. I'll hire somebody a real professional, a US based accounting firm. And, I hired them, and, you know, so I worked with them for, actually it was over the course of a few years, a couple different firms, sort of long story short, but like, it was never, I always felt like, I'm missing something. They would give me these reports at the end of the month, and like, they just didn't make any sense. Um, I thought they were wrong,
Hmm.
but I just couldn't figure out why. I'd spend hours going through like each, like, how this really seems wrong, but how, and like trying to figure out like, where did these numbers come from? And why do I think it should be different? Um, they give me these other reports, like, um, just made no sense at all to me. And I'd try to ask them questions like, what does this mean? And they'd say, oh, well, this report should give you an overall, feeling of the health of your business. I'm like,
Hmm.
how?
Right.
What
Yeah.
does it mean? Like a balance sheet. Like I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I sort of understand what that means. But like for a drop shipping store, I don't get it. But like, there it is.
Hmm.
And they were just so unhelpful. And so, and they couldn't answer the simplest questions like, um, I see there's money in the bank. It's an exciting number. Like, wow, that's great. But I've learned through experience, not all of that is mine. I'm going to have to pay some of that to my suppliers, but I'd like to know how much is
Right.
mine.
Right.
Like, uh, I don't know how to figure that out without spending hours. Can you just tell me? And I don't know why they couldn't do that. Or
Hmm.
if they did, like finally, after months and months of like, this is important to me, guys, help me out. Um, then they'd go, okay, I got it. And so I would ask, like, okay, can you tell me? They'd spend a week
Yeah.
and then tell me,
And
like, guys,
the
this
number doesn't
number
matter
is
anymore. Yeah.
totally irrelevant.
Yep. Yep.
So like, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but and like they wouldn't go into like, how much am I making per order, which, if that's absolutely critical for
Mm.
those listening. If you're running a drop shipping store, you need to know how much you're making on every single order,
Hmm.
because that's how you might say this item sells well, it's bringing in lots of money, but is the shipping too high? Like, or are there lesser, like, how much can you afford to spend on ads? You can make lots of great decisions in your business if you have information that answers your questions. And that's really what it came down to me. I realized this is not about just paying taxes. It's about answering your questions and solving your problems. So Well, after like 3 years of this with these accountants, two different accountants, and I decided, well, it's the reason I changed my perspective is because when I sold on Empire Flippers, or when I listed, they said, hey, they wanted me to fill out the profit and loss sheet for all 4 years of the store. Like, crap.
Yep.
That's a lot of work.
It is.
So, I had all these numbers, but they didn't make sense and I wasn't confident. So I went back through them all. It took me a long time. And finally I added it all up and okay, I'm confident in these numbers. Here you go, Empire Flippers. But what was amazing to me was when I looked at those numbers, I couldn't believe it. That terrible year that I thought I just had wasn't bad. So all of this time, I didn't know. I just didn't know. And I just saw that top line Shopify report just going down and down. But my profit margin was getting greater.
Right.
And so like it wasn't so bad. And all this time I had been telling myself this story, Isaac, you're an idiot. What are you doing? I mean, we could go really deep. Like I've got a family I'm trying to provide for. I have a wife that's working a full-time job that I'm trying to eventually replace, Isaac, you've done this for 4 years now. Why can't you promised your wife certain things, it can go really deep and it feels really bad. Your self-confidence starts to shake. But then when I saw those numbers, I was like, what? No way. Like
that's amazing. Yeah. And just,
declining, but not so bad.
Right. You're more profitable with less top line. And it's so important. Like to make any kind of decisions, that's what you need to work off of. Like it's almost always, it's a numbers game. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And just, having that confidence, no one likes to like look back and regret or anything. And still like you sold your store. That's amazing. You're, building a new business. That's amazing. But just to think like, if you have that confidence all along, or if you're learning early on that, hey, this thing is not what I thought it was, I didn't realize shipping for this thing is eating another 10% of what would be my profit. Like that's how you grow. That's how you build a better business. That's how you have more profit. That's how you sell at a higher multiple. So that is really cool though, that you had that experience of, not just like starting, but actually going back. And I do think like anybody that, listens to this and, checks out what you're working on, they probably should do the same. Like go back in time, look at those historical numbers, and maybe you'll see like, what you saw, that things were better than you thought. Maybe they were worse, but regardless, either way, it's better to know than not know, Like I hate going to the doctor, but I go because I'd rather know something's wrong sooner than later. So same type of thing.
Yeah. And then you can address it. Like if you know what the issue is, then you can solve it. If you don't know what an issue is, you just have this fear or, something's not going right. You can't solve that problem because you don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just curious though, based on like, what those two accountants did and the bookkeeper from Upwork, then you taking over and saying like, I'm doing this myself now, that's it. What things did you look at that they weren't? Like what made the numbers clear to you that you weren't getting from them?
Well, yeah, I mean, basically I had all these questions. Like I had major problems. Like, so the way I see it, accountants and bookkeepers, there's companies, millions of companies and accounting, and it's a standardized thing, and that's great. But like most companies, bigger companies, they have a CFO or somebody else at that level who's like interpreting all this stuff and can turn that into something that makes sense to the other people who are like leading the company. Well, I don't have that. So all I have are problems and questions. So my questions are, how much am I making on each order? Actually, I had been calculating that along with the bookkeepers over time, which is why I thought what they were giving me was wrong, because it didn't even come close to what I had. I would just add up my net profit for all these orders in a month and go, okay, that should be roughly similar to what they're telling me my gross profit is. And it's like wildly different, like tens of thousands of dollars. It's like, what? I mean, but how do you solve that? So but so there was that, but also, I had these questions like, it comes from these fears like, okay, suppliers, I've agreed to pay them this much. Like, this may be a new idea to some people, because when I talk to people, sometimes it's like, are the suppliers actually charging you what you think they are?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had it where they've accidentally charged me a different number, or maybe they ran the card twice and they've charged me double. That doesn't happen very often, but it does. So
Definitely.
it's like, and then there are other times, this is more common for me, but it's almost equally as huge of a problem. I have some suppliers that are big companies, and their accounting departments and payable, that runs pretty slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So I would approve an invoice. They go ship this order. I think, okay, you're going to charge my card within the next few days. Well, come to find out, 2 to 3 months later, they send me an email. Okay, you owe us this, and this for these orders. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I spent
Like,
that money.
we did this months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
and it's thousands of dollars. And it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't accounted for that. And so that's like, what I found out was all of these little fears add up, and there's just like a low to mid-level anxiety that I had. And I think, talking to other people, a lot of us have this, and that we think that that's just what running a business is.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I actually did the numbers, I was trying to solve these problems, and they're easy to solve if you can figure out how to do it. Did your suppliers charge you what you think they did? Well, go back and look at your credit card statements.
Mm-hmm.
Takes some time, but you can do it. It's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
How much money is in that bank account that you can keep? Well, just go through and look at, it's similar. How many orders have you taken money for that you have not paid for yet?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a similar process. So I just started doing this on my own, and then thought, wow, this is great, but this is taking a lot of time. So how can I slowly, one step at a time, automate some of this?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what I recommend for people who are in my situation or similar situations, where your store is growing, but you just feel at some point like, I don't have a handle on what's actually happening. Sit down and what are your actual questions? Be very specific. What are the questions? And then find out the answers. It might take you an afternoon, but you can do it. And then once you do that, go, okay, well, what can I do each month? And then once you have that laid out, you've done it a couple times, you have your numbers there, you can see the whole picture, and you go, okay, well, this is taking me a bit of time. How can I automate this step of it?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you talk about automation. You've been
Yeah.
talking about it lately with Zapier and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
which is amazing. And so if you take those ideas, apply it to your spreadsheets, you can automate this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did.
That's awesome. Yeah. And any of these processes that are repeated and that are extremely similar over and over, they're not hard to automate. Like, once you get a handle on the system, and I shouldn't say they're not hard, because that makes people think, 5 minutes later, it's all set up. Like, there's a learning curve, like anything.
Yeah.
But I'm not technical, and we have hundreds of automations that do all different things in the business. And figured it out. So that's really cool to hear that. And I mean, I guess after putting that in place, you now had those systems, right? You had optimized your website. You actually knew how much money that you were making. So I know you're not a big talking about numbers guy, and I'm not either, but you were able to, I'm sure, get more money than you thought you can get right before that process took place. So you had a clearer picture of your business, and then was it a higher multiple than you originally expected?
Well, I think so. I mean, I don't really know, because Empire Flippers, they just tell you what the multiple is. I don't know exactly what it would have been, what it wouldn't have been. But I mean, I sold for a 30x multiple, which is, I mean, much higher than I thought it would be.
That's respectable. That's great. Yeah.
But that's for, everybody else, hey, that can be done. That I had thought maybe it'd be 20 to 22 or something, but
Yeah, that's a big difference. Nice. So, for everybody listening too, we've been talking probably for 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks now, a couple times about a new project you're working on, and I think it's awesome. I think that there's definitely a need. That's why I wanted to have a conversation, let people know about it. So,
Awesome.
yeah, everything you've been talking about, you've put together kind of the first run of this, right? How you can
Yeah,
actually help people and manage this whole process for them. So you want to talk about I know you have a website up. You want to talk about the URL so people could find it, and then kind of
absolutely.
get into what you're offering over there?
Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you the URL. It's TrueView Bookkeeping, and that's spelled TRUVUE, bookkeeping.com. And that I've done that because, and I'll tell you sort of the background is after I sold the store, it was just like, whoa, so awesome. Now I have this time. But I remembered that, it actually took like 6 months between the time I listed, and that was at the point where I decided I'm going to do my own numbers. 6 months from there until when it actually sold. And so I sort of was looking back and thinking, remembering like, wow, what a tremendous like stress and anxiety relief this was for me to figure this out. So, I have all this free time now. The community has helped me so much along the way. Like, by the way, like Anton, you've put together such an amazing community here.
Yeah,
Helpful people. Like it's amazing.
yeah, we got
So
yep, we got lucky with how many good people we have in there. But yeah,
yeah,
thank you for being a part of it.
yeah, it's been great. I mean, yeah, everybody's we want to help each other, build each
Mhm.
other up, and that's unusual on the internet,
Yes, it is.
to say the least. So I have this free time. I've been helped along the way. I want to give back. So I just started putting it out there in the Facebook group, like, hey, I sort of figured out this bookkeeping thing. If anyone needs any help, just let me know. And so I started, people said, oh yeah, that I'm struggling with that right now. And so I would say, sure, just, let's do it. So we'd have these Skype calls and I would teach them what I did. And uh, it, their response blew me away. Like, I thought that this was a good thing, and I remembered how great it felt for me. But like, doing these video calls, like I can actually see on their faces, like, whoa, like you mean that I can know that? Like, I didn't even know I had that problem, but it's been stressing me out. I didn't know you could solve it so easily.
Hmm.
And so after helping like a whole bunch of people this way, they were telling me, they're saying, Isaac, you just, you just got to help more people do this. Like they're like, I can't believe you did this. And I thought, well, yeah, I mean, it was cool, but I didn't think it was that rare. so, so what I've done is I've just decided that the best way for me to help the most people is to offer a done for you service. So, you know, like I said, the experience, people, there are these tools out there like QuickBooks and Xero, they're software things. And people think, okay, well, this will solve my problems.
Hmm.
But then that's another learning curve. These things are built for big companies with HR departments and payables and all. It
Hmm.
just makes no sense. It didn't make any sense to me when I
Hmm.
was using it. I've heard similar things, and it takes forever to learn. And actually, it doesn't make things much quicker than a spreadsheet.
Hmm.
So like it's okay, but it's not really the solution. And my experience with the accountants were they don't really know us. So like it's not very helpful. And by the way, I was paying them a lot of money each month.
Hmm.
Um, and so I decided I'm just going to do a done for you service. This, as far as I know, this is the only service out there that is specifically tailored to drop shipping stores.
Hmm.
And it's gonna answer all of those questions and a lot more that I talked about. And it's just, you can just stop worrying about it. So you can all your questions can be answered. We can relieve that stress and anxiety for you. We can tell you, here's the bottom line. Here's exactly the profit for each order. You can use that to make decisions. Here's your profit and loss statement each month. And then at the end of the month, you can just give that to your tax accountant and just be done with it. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. We'll do it for you. So that's it.
No, that's awesome. So just again, it was TrueView, TruVU, bookkeeping.com.
Almost. TruVue. I know these fancy spelling. TruVue.
Yep. So we're going to have a link to that in the Facebook group when we post this. And then I'll also post it on the e-commerce lifestyle website so people can be sure to find it. And like, I don't want to talk about the pricing for it. I know the pricing now and I know it's super affordable, but someone might listen to this in 2 years and be like, oh, wait a minute, I thought it was that. So we'll get into that, but it's super affordable. And I don't know, I think that like if anybody is running a successful store, like you're up and you're running and you have orders coming in and you're in the situation like we've been talking about for like 45 minutes now.
Oh man.
And yeah, this is something that could definitely help you. And like, at the very least, you'll have more insights to your business. And at the most, you'll find that all these suppliers have overcharged you and that you actually owe one supplier 15 grand and that one product is making most of your money. So just the insights you get from it are obviously things that you can use just to put fuel on the fire where it's working and to cut back where the money is just non-existent. So I'll just say, I guess, like one more thing, like anybody that is part of Dropship Lifestyle or anybody that listen to the podcast, like we don't promote stuff. Like I talk about Shopify like crazy because I love them and that's about it. So yeah, Isaac, definitely good dude, been around the community, like I said, since the beginning. And I think it's just a great opportunity. So if you're up, you're running, you want to have better insights into your business so you could focus on the ad side, check it out. Like literally you have nothing to lose and there's a big upside to it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I will say I do have I want to give back. And I do have a special offer for the first 20 people. So if you want to go there, check it out, be one of the first 20 people. It's still great without the special offer, but it's a really good offer.
Yep.
For the first 20. Also, if you find that this seems like a great idea, but you're just getting started or you're not quite ready to have somebody else help you out, I did give away my the order profit tracker, which is that one that I was telling you. You can keep track of each order and exactly how much you made. That spreadsheet I put in the Facebook group a while ago. I suppose we could link to that as well.
Yep.
So you can use that. And also, I wrote up instructions on exactly how to automate that part of it. So that can be just done for you. You can set it up yourself and so that'll keep track of at least that portion of your books. And that's free. You can just do that. And I'm happy to answer any questions about it or anything else.
Awesome. I'm sure everybody is saying thank you, Isaac, right now. So yeah, thank you as well. And we will get that linked up when this is uploaded. And I'm just checking if people, again, with podcasts, people go back in time. So this is being recorded right now on Wednesday, July 31st, 2019. It's going to go live August 1st, which is insane. It's August already, August 1st, 2019. So if you're listening to this or watching this around then, and this sounds interesting, go to Isaac's site now to check it out. Again, it's TrueVue, VUE, bookkeeping.com. We'll have links to that and to the free worksheet that Isaac provided as well below this podcast. So anything else you want to say, Isaac, before we sign off?
I don't know, man. It just, if you're listening, you just go do it. Like whatever your goal is, just be focused on that and just do it, man.
I love it. Do the work.
Yeah, do the work.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you again, Isaac. Appreciate the time. And let's speak to you in Prague for the retreat.
Yeah. Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Thank you.